there a conflict? I would start arguing that yes, there is, and illustrate that with facts from around the world, and then in the conclusions discuss a little bit how you could reduce the conflict and really take it away altogether. So, growth. It seems like we all, individuals, businesses, communities, we want growth, we want more money, we want more stuff. And at least some of us are really getting that. Some of us in the world, in this map where you see where energy is used during the world, you can see who is the one who actually are getting the stuff and who aren't. But what is then sustainability? It's a concept that relates both to space and time. And the word you hear most in the debate, sustainable development, is then the type of development that leads to sustainability of various components of a system. And I'll talk about what that system is in a minute. Sustainable development in the political debate also is usually referred to having three dimensions: the social, economic, and environmental. So it's not all about environmental things. And you'll hear more about that in talks after mine. I'm going to focus on environmental sustainability. I know most about that. You can look at sustainability there from two perspectives. You can look at the sustainability of the whole system, the Earth system of which we are part, the human beings being part of that whole system. Or you can then focus in on the sustainability of the human species and her societies within that larger system. And then the crucial question becomes, when you discuss sustainability, is what resource, what species, or which species, which sub-part of the ecosystem should be sustained, and for how long, and in what state. And here, I mean, we know that change is part of life. There's nothing static in nature either. Change is always there. But we're going to talk about change that is not of the healthy kind, because it's going to destroy the parameters that life supports. If we go first into the temporal dimension of sustainability, I mean, this is, to sustain something over time. Each dimension, the social, environmental, and economic, is characterized by different time dynamics, you could say. For example, in the lag times between an action you take and the impact on that dimension, or the kind of horizons that decision makers use in these different policy areas. So in the environmental field, you have perhaps the longest time lag between the action you take and the possible consequences. When you talk about climate change, we're talking about consequences for centuries and millennia. In the economic sphere, you mostly refer to very short-term decision-making horizons and very short-term returns as well. In the social field, you have maybe time dynamics that are a little in between there, because you have focus on education of the future generations, so you have at least, some years and decades as the time horizon for decision making. If you look at the spatial dimension, that's also important, because it's very easy to degrade the environment. I should focus. No, okay. It's very easy to degrade the environment in one place, and you can be aware of it. But it's just as easy to think that you are sustainable on a local level. You've taken certain measures, and your environment is improving. The pollution in your neighborhood lake is improving when you've cleaned up your wastewater system, etc. But it's very easy to fool yourself, because the impacts of your action actually affect other systems further away. So then there is the aspect of quality dimension of sustainability. When scientists discuss this, one way of looking at it is at the whole system with the human economic system in it, is to look at capital. And you have a range of different types of capital that should be familiar to the economists in the room. Manufactured capital, human capital, social capital, and then you have natural capital. And those who talk about sustainability in one aspect, they really assume that it doesn't matter what type of capital you have. You can kind of, as long as the total sum of capital is equal, you have sustainability. So you can replace natural capital with other types of capital. If you use natural capital to build human capital, organizational capital, total sum is fine, and you have sustainability. Well, some would say, well, that's weak sustainability. And I would go along with that critique of that, because what you really need to talk about is strong sustainability. And that concept of sustainability requires that the stock of natural capital, that one type of capital, be maintained above critical levels. And because it's this definition of sustainability that recognizes that there are real physical limits in nature, and that there are irreversibility. There are things you can change beyond return that you cannot repair, however much money you invest in it. If you take away a species from the planet, there is no way you can create that again. So, and various other aspects. If you change the climate system beyond a certain point, there is no return to the previous state. So how can we then look at that in more practical definitional terms? Well, one definition of using resources for human well-being is that to have a sustainable resource use, such as of the renewable types of resources, for example, soil, water, forest, fish, the sustainable rate of use can be no greater than the rate of regeneration of its source. And then we have the whole range of non-renewable resources, fossil fuels, high-grade mineral ores, fossil groundwater, etc. And for these types of resources, if you really want to extend them in time and have sustainable use, their use cannot be greater than the rate at which a renewable resource used sustainably can be substituted for it.